Climate change is destroying this island off the coast of Virginia. Tangier Island is rapidly disappearing under rising sea levels, losing ground every year. In just a few decades, the whole island could be underwater.
It can be depressing up here when you see these places that used to be a thriving community, and it's all gone now.
When we hear about islands going under rising sea levels, we often hear about the South Pacific, about the Maldive Islands. What we don't hear about so often is this island, even though it's just a few miles off of the mainland U.S.
In the past 150 years, Tangier has wasted away to just 1/3 of its previous size. And the 500 or so people who live here know time is running out.
I mean, I've seen 75 feet from last October to now be washed away from upwards. We can't handle it any longer.
When this green beacon was put here in the 60s, you could step off that onto the land.
So you could step off of this beacon right here?
Yep, on that land. It was all the way over here then.
How long before Tangier Island is not habitable?
We've got about maybe 50 years at the mid-range. And if the high-level sea level rise scenario is what happens, at most they've got 25 years. So they don't have a lot of time.
David Schulte has studied Tangier for 15 years. His proposal to literally lift the island through engineering might be the only way to save it. But that requires funding from a Congress that doesn't even acknowledge the root of the problem.
You know, how long will it take for the sea level to rise 2 feet? I mean, think about it. If your ice cube melts in your glass, it doesn't overflow.
We're the only first world country where this is even a debate. Everyone else is on board with climate change, is a real thing that's occurring.
These guys have a ticket to New York City. These are peeler crabs. A peeler crab is a blue crab that's getting ready to molt or shed.
And this is how a lot of people on the island make their living, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say it's almost 50-50. Part of the guys catch the hard crabs and sell them like by the bushel basket, and then the other guys do the soft crabs. Crabs are they're what keeps the ball rolling here. Can be very, very discouraging. The bay that's provided a living for everybody, all these years is actually threatening the community now.
Tangier Island is a historical treasure. John Smith was the first European to come across it. Later in the 1600s, it was founded by several families, among them the Parks, the Pruitts, and the Crockett's, each of which still live on the island.
This is eroding very quickly too, right here.
It's coming in right into their backyard.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I live here. The one with the black roof.
How much closer is it now than it was maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago?
Oh, I'd say 10 or 20 years ago, 50 feet.
Today, Tangier Island is only a sliver of what it once was. Maps collected by the Army Corps of Engineers shows the rapid loss of land since 1850. As the north half, known as Upwards, wasted away completely, new canals, creeks, and swamps crisscrossed the island, and the west side of Tangier was steadily swallowed by the ocean until the island's residents made a drastic move.
It looks simple. This seawall is actually the most effective means of stopping that erosion that's been eating away at Tangier Island. But it only stretches along the west shore of the island right now. Expanding it to other parts of Tangier Island would be a big project and a much more expensive one.
They completed this one in 1989. Haven't lost 1 inch of shoreline since then. And then we need protection on the east side now. I mean, the erosion's going on all around.
But the seawall alone won't be enough.
You really need an effort to raise the remaining land. And, you know, engineeringly you can do that, but you would definitely have to do that in addition to, you know, like you suggested, the stone protection, the seawall sort of thing. Otherwise, if you don't, you're just going to get kind of a fishbowl effect where you're going to have the stone around the island, but any storm event is just going to overtop them and just flood the entire interior.
Today, this is Tangier's problem. But tomorrow, it's a problem for America's entire eastern seaboard. Among the places set to flood under rising sea levels in this century are Miami, Lower Manhattan, the Jersey Shore, and even where we interviewed David Schulte in Norfolk, Virginia. To save themselves, governments here and the federal government will have to acknowledge and address the problem of climate change and rising sea levels. And the country will have to make a decision as to which Americans should be saved.
If we go by this criteria, what we're going to end up doing is saving all the big cities, because as a locality, they're going to be able to come up with, say, their local share to do a big engineering project. Whereas all the little towns, like the Tangiers, these small towns are not going to be able to come up with their share to do these big projects. So going by that criteria, we're just going to basically abandon every less than big city entity, in these areas. So I think at the end of the day, we're going to have to use more than that as our decision-making criteria.
They're probably going to get the help faster because of the number of people that, live there and vacation there. So I'm sure there'll be more focus there, but we're in need of help from the government, and we think they should, help us out.